Hello, and welcome to Reimagined Radio. I'm John Barber. In this episode, entitled Storytelling with Sounds, we will explore how sounds have contributed to storytelling throughout human history and listen to some examples of storytelling with sounds. Storytelling, it seems, has evolved with human beings and today is woven into the fabric of our lives. How often, for example, have you been asked,
"Please, tell me a story."
But what is storytelling? Simply defined, storytelling is constructing and sharing a narrative of events in such a way as to engage the listener's imagination. Many scholars believe storytelling began as a way to explain the sounds prehistoric humans heard in nature, like thunder. In this sense, storytelling was a way to establish relationships between humans and the surrounding world. Storytelling may have developed as rhythmic drumming or mimicry of bird and animal sounds. These sounds were incorporated into words, and then speech, and eventually language. Over millennia, storytellers constructed and spoke aloud epic stories from formulaic word combinations, often accompanied by music or other sounds. Storytelling was not only entertainment, but also information, a fundamental mechanic useful for making sense of human experience. Arguably, spoken, oral storytelling provided one of the earliest forms of collective communication and memory, and may have provided an origin for literature.
Wat, we gardena in jærdagum, theod kuninga thrumje frunnan, huda aderlingas ellen fremmedon.
That was the first line of Beowulf, the epic Anglo-Saxon tale of battle between the heroic warrior Beowulf and a bloodthirsty monster called Grendel. Scholars suggest that Beowulf was told orally for several centuries before it was first preserved in writing, somewhere between 975 and 1025. Translated, that first line says, "We have heard of the might of kings, and how those nobles performed courageous deeds." With that first line, the storyteller refers to previous tellings of the Beowulf story, and so attaches the present telling to community history, prompts listeners' memories, and captures their imaginations. Storytelling is a way of carrying the past into the future. From the start, storytelling relied on the sounds of the storyteller's voice. Other sounds might have been added for narrative effect or to aid memory. Storytelling with sounds, whether voice or other sounds, or a combination, evolved into participatory rituals and reenactments, and eventually into theatrical and dramatic performances.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
For dramatic performances, actors spoke scripted dialogue, which was often augmented by sound effects. Shakespeare, for example, used sounds of thunder and historic battles to augment his plays. Storytelling with sounds evolved further with the arrival of motion pictures. Early silent movies featured live musical accompaniment, which substituted for the unheard narratives spoken by actors on screen. And some movies crossed boundaries and became radio. In 1930, German filmmaker Walter Ruttman created a collage of words, music fragments, and other sounds to represent a weekend in Berlin. Weekend was presented in theaters as a sound-only experience. No images were projected on screens. Weekend was also broadcast on radio, and for that reason is sometimes called a radio play. Listen now to Weekend.
Hallo, Fräulein. Bitte Dön auf 42,40.
Erlkönig.
Ich verbitte mir das! Bitte.
Wer reitet so spät durch Nacht und Wind? Es ist der...
Fräulein, Sie haben mich ja falsch verbunden. Dön auf 42. 4.
4 mal 4 ist...
4. Stock, Spielwaren, Schuhwarenladen, Lebensmittelabteilung.
Bitte, erlauben Sie mir doch.
Und erlauben wir uns,
Erlauben Sie mal.
Sie ebenso dringend wie höflich,
Hallo, Fräulein.
Mein Sohn...
Aber Fräulein,
Mein Sohn... Es ist...
zum Rasenwerden. Kollege kommt gleich. Na Gott sei Dank. Hallo.
Mein Vater...
Hallo.
Vater und...
Achtung!
Sechs, 19, 24, 89, 86, 80, 287, 86, 90, 99.
Mahlzeit. Mahlzeit.
Mach schon! Ja doch!
Niemals wieder.
Was brauchen wir Grammophon?
Also bitte.
You are listening to Reimagined Radio. This episode is called Storytelling with Sounds. I'm John Barber. We will continue after these words from our sponsors.
AARP Foundation Tax Aid in Clark County is currently taking appointments for tax preparation and e-filing services at no charge. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, preparation will be contact-free. Tax Aid is an all-volunteer organization whose tax counselors are trained and certified by the IRS. To make an appointment in Washington, the number is 360-302-2641. And in Oregon, call 211 and ask for Tax Aid. More information at aarpfoundation.org/tax aid.
Programming like this is brought to you through the generous support of our founding sponsors at ADCO, Commercial Printing and Graphics, Clark County's local print shop since 1993. ADCO features stationery, posters, flyers, tickets, business cards, stickers, catalogs, and much more. Print on anything and mail anywhere. Learn more at adco1.com. That's adco1.com.
Big thank you to Craft Cannabis, formerly known as New Vansterdam, for their ongoing support of KXRW Vancouver Radio. Craft Cannabis is Vancouver's premier cannabis market for those 21 years of age and over. Visit craftcannabis.com to view and order from their full online menu, and they offer in-store, curbside, and touchless pickup to better serve you. Craft Cannabis is located in the Heights Shopping Center on the corner of Mill Plain and Andreessen Road. Open 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., 365 days a year. More information available at craftcannabis.com.
Welcome back to Reimagined Radio. In this episode, we are exploring storytelling with sounds. We just heard Weekend by Walter Ruttman, a movie shown in theaters without pictures and broadcast on radio as a story told with sounds. Radio, with its content comprised entirely of sound, is well suited for storytelling. Early radio programs offered recitations, dramatic performances, and music, all forms of storytelling with sounds. Even news reports, because of the inability to broadcast from remote locations, were dramatic presentations performed in broadcast studios. But Herb Morrison and his report about the arrival of the Hindenburg was a game changer. On May 6, 1937, following a transatlantic flight, the German dirigible Hindenburg caught fire just short of its mooring mast at the Lakehurst, New Jersey Naval Air Station. The Hindenburg burned and crashed to the ground within seconds. Morrison, a reporter from WLS Radio in Chicago, Illinois, was there, experimenting with a new mobile recording unit when the Hindenburg caught fire. He recorded what he witnessed, quickly losing his reporter's subjectivity as he was overwhelmed by the tragedy unfolding in front of him. His recording was broadcast the next day on WLS Radio, the first live on-location radio report. Here is a segment of Morrison's story.
The Hindenburg left Frankfurt, Germany, Tuesday evening rather, at 7:30 their time. And for better than 2.5 days, they've been speeding through the skies over miles and miles of water here to America. Now they're coming in to make a landing of the Zeppelin. I'm going to step out here and cover it from the outside. So as I move out, we'll just stand by a second. Well, here it comes, ladies and gentlemen. We're out now outside of the hangar, and what a great sight it is. A thrilling one. It's a marvelous sight. It's coming down out of the sky, pointed directly towards us and toward the mooring mast. The mighty diesel motors just roared, their propellers sighting into the air and throwing it back into a gale-like whirlpool. No wonder this great floating palace can travel through the air at such a speed with these powerful motors behind it. Now, a field that we thought active when we first arrived has turned into a moving mass of cooperative action. The landing crews have rushed to their posts and spots, and orders are being passed along, and last-minute preparations are being completed for the moment we have waited for so long. The ship is riding majestically toward us like some great feather, riding as though it was mighty proud of the place it's playing in the world's aviation. The ship is no doubt bustling with activity, as we can see. Orders are shouted to the crew. The passengers are probably lining the windows, looking down at the field ahead of them, getting their glimpse of the mooring mast. It's practically standing still now. They've dropped ropes out of the nose of the ship, and it's been taken a hold of down on the field by a number of men. It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from... It bursts into flames. Get it, Charlie. It's crashing. It's crashing terrible. Oh, my, get out of the way, please. It's bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring mast, and all the folks agree that this is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's inflation. 400 or 500 feet into the sky. It's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. The smoke and the flames now, and the frame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the passengers feeding around it. I can't talk to people. His friends are on there. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it's just laying down massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can't hardly breathe and talk and screaming. Lady, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can hardly breathe. I'm going to step inside where I cannot see it. Charlie, that's terrible. Listen, folks, I'm going to have to stop for a minute because I've lost the voice. This is the worst thing I've ever witnessed. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm back again. I've sort of recovered from the terrific explosion and the terrific crash that occurred just as it was being pulled down to the mooring mast. The terrible amount of hydrogen gas in it just caused the tail surface broke into flame first. Then there was a terrific explosion, and that followed by the burning of the nose and the crashing nose into the ground, and everybody tearing back at breakneck speed to get out from underneath it because it was over the people at the time it burst into flames. Now, whether it fell on the people who were witnessing it, we do not know. But as it exploded, they rushed back, and now it's smoking a terrific black smoke floating up into the sky. The flames are still leaping maybe 30, 40 feet from the ground, the entire 811 feet length of it. They're frantically calling for ambulances and things. The wires are being humming with activity, and I've lost my breath several times during this exciting moment here. Will you pardon me just a moment? I'm not going to stop talking. I'm just going to swallow several times until I can keep on.
From the 1930s to the 1950s, during the so-called Golden Age of radio, numerous radio dramas explored many approaches to storytelling with sounds. Perhaps the most famous, or infamous, depending on your point of view, was The War of the Worlds, performed by Orson Welles and the Mercury Theatre on the Air, October 30, 1938. Here is a very condensed version to give you a sense of how well radio storytelling with sounds worked.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theatre on the Air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object believed to be a meteorite fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. We have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene, and we'll have our commentator, Carl Phillips, give you a word picture of the scene as soon as he can reach there from Princeton.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Phillips out at the Wilmot Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Good heavens, something wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. Now it's another one, and another one, and another one. They look like tentacles to me. Wait a minute, something's happening. Humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Lord, they're turning into flames. Now the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles, spreading everywhere. Coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
I'm speaking from the roof of Broadcasting Building, New York City. The bells you hear are ringing to warn the people to evacuate the city as Martians approach. The enemy is now in sight above the Palisades. 5 great machines. First one is crossing the river. I can see it from here, wading the Hudson like a man wading through a brook. Now they're lifting their metal hands. This is the end now. Smoke comes out, black smoke drifting over the city. People are trying to run away from it, but it's no use. They're falling like flies.
100 yards away. It's 50 feet.
Strange it now seems to sit in my peaceful study, writing down this last chapter of the record. When their bodies were examined in laboratories, it was found that they were killed by the putrefactive and disease bacteria against which their systems were unprepared. Strange when I recall the time when I first saw it. Clean cut, hard, and silent under the dawn of that last great day.
Tonight, the Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations coast to coast has brought you The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Radio, as the primary storytelling medium, was challenged by the arrival of television, but was not easily displaced. This demonstration by Stan Freberg, called Stretching the Imagination, pushed back against competition from television in 1965 by showing how well radio could do what television could not.
Radio? Why should I advertise on radio? There's nothing to look at, no pictures.
Listen, you can do things on radio you couldn't possibly do on TV.
That'll be the day.
All right, watch this. Okay, people, and now when I give you the cue, I want the 700-foot mountain of whipped cream to roll into Lake Michigan, which has been drained and filled with hot chocolate. Then the Royal Canadian Air Force will fly overhead towing a 10-ton maraschino cherry, which will be dropped into the whipped cream to the cheering of 25,000 extras. All right, cue the mountain. Cue the Air Force. Cue the maraschino cherry. Okay, 25,000 cheering extras. Now, you want to try that on television?
Well...
You see, radio is a very special medium because it stretches the imagination.
Doesn't television stretch the imagination?
Up to 27 inches, yes.
No doubt, listening to Stretching the Imagination, you visualized the sounds you heard in your mind's eye. That's the important point about storytelling with sounds. Sound seizes and stimulates your imagination, creates a visual world in your mind, and promotes a sense of engagement and interactivity. What other approaches might we take to storytelling with sounds? One answer is by layering sounds to build up a narrative, as demonstrated in this example called Cityphony by Barrett Golding.
Let's build a city. We'll need a lot of people and buildings. And traffic. People in the city are restless. We better add commotion. The city is glamorous. It's exciting. And a little dangerous. Let's go to a restaurant. Let's go to a club.
All right, thanks a lot. We're going to take a short break and then come.
In the city, I feel like I'm in a giant stadium, participating in the greatest of spectator sports. We all watch each other.
Another method is to interview interesting people and use their voices as the basis for storytelling. I recorded this next example, called Sausage Man, in Germany, where there is a tradition of men selling hot sausages on city streets. These vendors offer sausages cooked and kept warm using portable cooking devices, which make distinctive sounds when their metal compartment doors are opened and closed. Do you come here all the time then and do this?
It's just on
just
regular.
Special occasions?
It's just for you. I have been on Monday already here for a service club. They had also the tour. It was a German or Hof service club. And I did for the 25th anniversary. If you would like to watch it, it's on Deutsche Welle, which and you just give in Google Hof sausage vendor. Mittlerreuth, and you will see a reportage about 10 minutes.
Excellent.
I'm guiding you through the hometown, and we end here in Mittlerreuth.
Wonderful. Tell me about being a sausage man. How did you start?
I'm not a butcher. I didn't learn in a bakery. Actually, I was a long time in the military, and after a while, I thought I don't want to work for anybody else. I just work for myself. I don't work for the butcher. I have normally regular 3 different butcheries in my of 7 sausage existent assortment. And I'm just a real sale of warm sausages in the street. If I'm being downtown on a certain spot, it's a tradition, and a tradition from 1871, so we're talking about 150 years. I'm not quite as old as I look, but it's quite common in Hof. So we have also an own monument where people are very proud of, where you see in stone a guy with a small bowl, whatever you call it, and it's still fired by charcoal. In this way, the vegetarian side is electric, but this is the original bowl. I use it every day in the street, and it's every day. It's not electrician. It's not done with electricity. It is done by, maybe you could get the sound. That's the fire pan, and you see glowing charcoal underneath. And this you arrange the temperature by the flaps. If you close it, it's less of air, oxygen, and so it will burn less. If you open it, the temperature is rising.
Every day you are on the same place?
On the same place, except Sunday.
Same street. Mm-hmm. Every day except when you do a special...
Yeah, I'm all over Germany. Normally I'm doing for bigger companies, industries. I'm doing like fairs. I'm all over Germany. I have been also in Czech. I have been in France. I have been last Saturday, I was up at the Bremen area. Yeah, there's a big plant also for a local industry, and they had like a family day. And the guy who runs the place, he invited me for something special to show the people up there. Uh-huh.
How long have you been doing this?
I'm close to 15 years.
15 years.
Yes.
And you never thought of doing anything else?
I do something else. I'm also kind of the president of supporting club for the film festival in Hof, and I'm also doing with 7 other friends. We're doing a big fair, which is every year for 10 days in town. A kind of, we call it Volksfest, which is a kind of Luna Park with a big tent with Zumba music and a beer garden, and we can serve at the same time 6,000 people if you want to. So.
In all those years, nearly 15 years, you must have had some amazing adventures.
Yeah, I meet every day different people, new people, and it's interesting that I don't have to call anybody, you know. People call me if they need me, but I don't call my customers and say, would you like to have sausage today? They're just showing up. And a normal way is that they eat always the same, Even if you have a variety in there, they normally eat the same sausage, what they had before.
What do you think might be one of your most interesting adventures or experiences?
Adventures, yeah, there's some. Actually, one time I'm standing right in front of a textile retailer, fashion labels, and one guy went in there and he stole a leather jacket, very expensive, and the shop assistant said he just stole a jacket, but he was injured, he couldn't run, and I followed the thief. And I got him, and this time I was in a marathon training for Berlin marathon, and I had it like after 30 meters, I got him, and I caught him, and I caught the jacket. I brought it back. I didn't do anything. I didn't harm the guy, but I got the jacket. And the local newspaper made a story out of it, and because it's a kind of carré where you could go in circles. And there's also on the other side, there's a small cafe. And they were putting up the story that I was running after the thief in circles, and the crowd, which was in front of the cafe, sitting drinking coffee, were cheering at me and were supporting me to get the thief. It was written in the newspaper in a funny way.
Well, that's a wonderful story.
Yeah, that's a nice story.
Will you continue doing this as long as you can?
Yeah.
Can you imagine doing that?
Yeah, actually, as long as I'm healthy, I will do it. In winter, it's quite cold here in this area. We're talking about below -10. Then I quit working. Yeah, but the rolls will start to freeze. The sausage won't, but the first thing which freezes is the mustard, and then the buns.
So the biggest problem we're having is what a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm just going to turn this off. You are listening to Reimagined Radio. In this episode, we're exploring storytelling with sounds. I'm John Barber. We will continue with more sounds and more stories after we thank our sponsors.
Big thank you to Craft Cannabis, formerly known as New Amsterdam, for their ongoing support of KXRW Vancouver Radio. Craft Cannabis is Vancouver's premier cannabis market for those 21 years of age and over. Visit craftcannabis.com to view and order from their full online menu, and they offer in-store, curbside, and touchless pickup to better serve you. Craft Cannabis is located in the Heights Shopping Center on the corner of Mill Plain and Andreessen Road. Open 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., 365 days a year. More information available at craftcannabis.com.
Court-appointed special advocates for children, known as CASA, are volunteers who advocate for the best interest of children who have come into the care of the state as a result of abuse, neglect, or abandonment. You can lend your voice and volunteer with CASA to change a child's story. CASA offers virtual info sessions and training. If interested, now is the time to get involved with CASA and make a lasting difference in the lives of children and families in the foster care system. Clark County CASA is a program of the YWCA of Clark County. More information available at casaclarkcounty.org. KXRW Radio would like to help spread the word about food availability in Clark County for people in need in this extraordinary time. If you need food, Clark County Food Bank's partners are located in 21 sites throughout Clark County. The complete list is updated daily. You can find it at clarkcountyfoodbank.org. Once you're there, click on the button that says Get Food during COVID-19. If you can't visit a distribution site, ask a friend or neighbor to go in your place. They'll be able to pick up a food box for you. If you or a friend can't make it, email info@clarkcountyfoodbank.org. They may be able to deliver food to your door in some situations. And finally, if you would like to help, go to clarkcountyfoodbank.org and click on the Donate button in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Every dollar donated will help meet the food needs of our most vulnerable population. Thank you.
Welcome back to Reimagined Radio. In this episode, we have considered several different examples of storytelling with sounds. A final example is oral history, an account of a place or event by someone present during the narrative being shared. In this example, I recorded Shirley Howard, recounting some of her experiences working for the Northern Pacific Railroad in Washington State, mid-20th century. I added sound effects to create a story easily imagined as a conversation with Ms. Howard aboard a train pulled by a steam locomotive. As you will hear, this is an important detail.
My name is Shirley Howard, previously Shirley Marie James, born in Spokane, Washington, at the Deaconess Hospital, August 14, 1926. I grew up somewhat in Seattle and a year in Wenatchee, but mostly in Spokane. Went to school at North Central High School. After high school, always thought I'd be a secretary, but the news in the paper talked about a Spokane telegraph school that railroad people could learn Morse code, work on the railroad, and earn so much money. So it just worked out fine that I went, I thinking 4 months approximately to telegraph school, and went to work then for the Northern Pacific Railroad. My first spot was Sprague, Washington, and I would go and rent a room with someone in Sprague. Of course, you worked 3 shifts, preferably day shift, but that doesn't happen to new employees. I worked midnight till 8 the first time I went to work. When I began work, we worked 7 days a week. And about a year later, maybe not even that long, it's 6 days a week, and then 5 days a week. And after you worked a year, you could have a week vacation. After 2 years, 2 weeks vacation. And I'm not remembering the amount when I quit. I had still some time due. I had worked 4.5 years total. Little experience that startled me. We had what we called an order board to move big levers in the office a certain way to tell the train that there's an order board out with a train order. Well, I could not budge this order board when I first tried it. I had all my weight and I had practiced, and I was alone then. And I got up onto the counter and put all my weight, and it finally moved. But that was a little unnerving. Our order boards told the train exactly what was happening before they could see the light and the movement before they got to our office. The train orders were our main item. The engineer would put his arm out the window, and I would stand beside the track close to the engine, and those engines were enormous. And I do believe that's why I'm a little hard of hearing. You had a long pole with a Y and a string across the top, and the orders were tied in the string. And we had to copy these orders from the dispatcher. The dispatchers were our main communicators. They put out the train orders from the office in Spokane. Sometimes really fast because the train was just about there. So it was often hurry, hurry, hurry. You soon learn to be mighty careful. And we had some really fine dispatchers. After a few weeks at Sprague, I went to Ritzville. And from there on out to the other side of Pasco, to a little spot called Badger. There were 3 of us women in the office. We slept right in the little station. We had no electricity. We had a little old stove that we cooked on and another stove that we had in the office and warmed up. We had an outhouse. We had a cistern for water, which eventually gave me yellow jaundice. And I came back into Spokane for some care then, but went back. One time we had a little track fire, and that was a little exciting, but it burned out. But you didn't know at night what it was. And evidently it just sparked some grass and whatever's near the track. But there wasn't much up there to burn. It was barren, pretty barren land, not trees. A really interesting life. We had 3 women and the sheep herder, and nothing around. On the railroad, you have seniority, and you bid on a job there or there. And sometimes we would have a change of personalities. Trainmen were so nice, they would throw off newspapers or whatever we would ask for. And I would ride sometimes into town with what we call the little speed cars on the trackman, and do a little shopping. Not off. Out at Badger, we would have somebody drive out, to visit us, some relatives or somebody, and to try and fix something without having a good stock in the cupboard was not easy. But living in a little station like that, you don't have any extra comforts, but you don't think about it. Just do what you do. As I spent about a year and a half at Badger, then I bid in a job in Pasco, which was a big terminal, and I learned a lot in a hurry there. It was always afternoons or midnights when I would work, and that is where I met my friend, like a sister to me. She worked as a clerk in the office, and we stayed together then for about 2.5 years. And that is where I met my husband. He was a conductor out of Wishram to Pasco, good looking. And he happened to like me too, so we went to the movies quite a bit. I don't think we missed many movies in those days. Got better acquainted and decided to marry. My family would come to visit us in Pasco quite often. Our Pasco was great. It was busy during the war. A lot of troop trains. I could go to the window right by the desk and I could wave, but you didn't see many of the men get off. But I would hear about how well fed they were on the train. When I was in high school, probably 5 different young men that I went to school with didn't make it home from the serving their time. My girlfriend, like her sister, she worked out at Hanford. She also contracted cancer, and she died about 10 years later. And we're quite sure that had something to do with it, Hanford. I heard a whole new language on the railroad at times. Not good, because my folks didn't ever use language like that. But the railroad people, I find most of them have a good heart and would help you do something if you needed help. I still have some people here that I talk to that are old friends, and one a dispatcher. I just talked to him this morning, and he was a dispatcher here, and he went to the same telegraph school, a little younger than I am. I said, I cannot remember how much money I made a month when I started. And he took out his little black book this morning. He still had written down what he made years ago when he started working. $1.68 an hour. And his first, in fact, I wrote it down, 1971, he made $1,100 a month. And that was a lot, in 1971. But the booklet does say that we only made like $297 a month, approximately. And I just haven't thought about it and haven't a good, clear recollection. I know it seemed like a lot of money to me. But meanwhile, back to all the telegraph, Morse code, and so forth. Fascinating and not hard to learn. They say a child can learn it. We had what we called just a regular telegraph key. I can't do it for you, but I still, in my mind, I could sit and do it. I did have a girlfriend who was really good with code. She worked in Tacoma and Seattle in the bigger offices of the NP, Northern Pacific. I don't know for sure, but the thing that changed telegraphers, radios on the trains, and you don't have any more telegraphers, which telegraphers used to say, how can they run the trains without us? And that's how. Radios. In Wishram, where I lived, I didn't work then. We had lots of baby showers in Wishram. And I had Donna then the first year, so I was busy, and lots of good friends in Wishram. Had a good time in Wishram. Have a friend there that she's 102 now, Laura. Her husband died at 105 not long ago. Saw a lot of railroad hobos, bums, fed a few. My husband had a little restaurant he started before railroading, and he sold a bowl of beans and a piece of bread, I think, for 5 cents. The last train, the engine, steam engine that worked into Wishram, that really worked, I took pictures because my husband wasn't home to take the pictures. And that was a scary situation because he took movies, but he had it all set up. I think I've got a picture someplace, but that's hard to describe. The steam engines we loved, we still love them because they just talk to you. It's just different than this diesel just goes down the track and they just blow their certain sounding whistles, so different than anything else. A real railroader gets excited about a steam engine. I've been on them, but I've never really ridden any distance. Have you ever heard of this 700 engine? It's kind of famous, and it still takes people on a tour once in a while. After I married, I stopped working for 20 years, and then we moved to Vancouver, and my girlfriend said they're hiring part-time down at the office, so I went down and went to work for another 10 years or more. Earned a pension, which I deeply appreciate. The railroad is good employer. I'm really blessed to have chosen the job I happen to decide on. I don't know what else I would have liked or who I would have met a finer man, and railroad's good for people.
You have just heard Storytelling with Sounds, an episode of Reimagined Radio. We examined how sounds, like the storyteller's voice and sound effects, have contributed to storytelling since the dawn of human history. This has been a production of Reimagined Radio. Please visit our website, www.reimaginedradio.net, for information about Reimagined Radio, our performances, and to subscribe to our snappy email newsletter. That's www.reimaginedradio, all one word, no punctuation, .net. Sound design for this program by John Barber. Post-production by Martin John Gallagher. Social media by Regina Carroll Social Media and Photography. Graphic design by Holly Slocum Design. A big thanks to all our listeners who support programming like Reimagined Radio with their contributions. If you would like to help support our efforts, please visit the KXRW website. That's kxrw.fm. Scroll down the page and engage with the donate button. This is John Barber, producer and host of Reimagined Radio. It has been my pleasure to talk with you about storytelling with sounds. Thank you so much for listening. Until later, take care and listen to the sounds around you. They all have stories to tell.